Okay, so again, for test, we're gonna have chapters 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Today I'm gonna do chapter 7, tomorrow chapter 8. Then on Monday, I plan on doing a review for the test. Basically, I'm gonna go over the quizzes, and I'm also gonna take a look at the test. Probably on Sunday, I'm gonna take a look at the test to make sure that everything is okay. I'm gonna take the test myself, and make sure that the right answers are right. And then I'm gonna cover any questions that I feel are a little bit more difficult. So I'm gonna have the test fresh in my mind. So I'll remember some of the more difficult questions, and I'll go over them in the review. So definitely watch the video on the review next week. Okay, so any questions about chapter 6, about taxes, how to calculate and stuff like that? Okay, let me ask you this. Let's suppose that your income is $50,000. And the tax bracket look like this. First of all, what is this person's marginal tax rate? You can tell me that just by looking at it. You don't have to calculate anything.
20%.
20%, exactly, because that's the highest marginal tax rate that their income takes them into. And now let's calculate what is the average tax rate for that person. In other words, how much on average will they pay to Uncle Sam out of their income? Obviously, for that, we need to calculate how much they owe in taxes, and then we're going to take that amount they owe in taxes divided by the income, and then times 100 to put it in percentages. So let's take a look. How much do they owe in taxes?
6,000.
6,000, exactly, 6,000. Because they owe $4,000 on the first 40,000. And then they have to pay taxes going from 40 to 50. So on $10,000, 20% of $10,000 is $2K. Therefore, they owe $6,000 in taxes. So the average tax rate is equal to 6,000 divided by 50, I'm sorry, times 100. So that is a little bit more than 10%. I don't know what it is. 12%?
12%.
Does anybody? Huh? How much?
12%.
12%. So that's the average tax rate. They pay 12% of their income to Uncle Sam. Okay, very good. So we kind of know how to work out those problems out of chapter 6. So now let's move on to chapter 7, unemployment and inflation. So we're going to start out with unemployment. Obviously, and please unmute yourself, because I would rather have back and forth, you know, and give me some answers. What does it mean to be unemployed? Well, I'm going to give you one condition of being unemployed. You got to be 16 years or older. So a 10-year-old cannot be unemployed. Okay. You got to be 16 years or older. What else? What would be another basic condition of being unemployed?
Available to work but don't have a job.
So you don't have a job. You're out of work. Absolutely. And the last one is going to be actively seeking work. So please don't confuse whether you collect unemployment compensation or not with whether you're employed or not, because they are not related. Well, they are related, but not that closely that we associate both of them. For example, let's suppose that you have a job and you have a boss in your job, and you hate your boss. And guess what? Your boss hates you just as much. And you find out one day that they plan on laying you off. So your boss wants to lay you off. And you think to yourself, well, I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of laying me off. So what are you going to do?
You quit.
You quit? Exactly. Good idea or bad idea?
Bad idea.
Bad idea.
Bad.
You're absolutely right. It's a bad idea. You should not quit. Let them lay you off because you're going to be able to collect unemployment compensation. If you quit, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be able to collect unemployment compensation. So in one case, in both cases, whether you quit or they lay you off, you're going to be unemployed. But in one case, you may be able to collect unemployment compensation. In another case, you may not be able. So they are not quite that closely related. Okay, now, let me ask you this question. Let's suppose that I win the lotto tomorrow. And I win the lotto, I win 50 million bucks. Question for you. Do you think that next Monday I will do a review for the test for you?
No.
No.
No, no. Do you think that you will ever see me again? And the answer is absolutely not. I will not be here. Where will I be?
On a yacht.
Exactly, exactly. I'm going to be in southern France on Côte d'Azur. I'm going to be hanging out with the beautiful people. And I'm not going to be here with you guys. Question for you. Will I be unemployed?
No, because you're not
No.
looking for work.
You got it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm out of work, but I'm not looking for work. Therefore, I'm not considered unemployed. Folks, sometimes when we are in the midst of a big, long recession, what happens is sometimes you will see the unemployment rates changing dramatically. After a long recession, you will see suddenly that the unemployment rate is going down. But the economy is not recovering. The economy is still struggling. But the unemployment rate is going down. What's the explanation for this? Well, the explanation is people have been unemployed for such a long time. They give up on looking for work. And at that point, they are no longer considered unemployed because they are no longer actively seeking work. You've given up. This is called the, now the term escapes me, discouraged worker phenomena, where discouraged workers are the people who are just giving up on looking for work. They've been too discouraged. And as a result, the unemployment rate looks like it's going down when in fact it stays the same. Okay, now folks, we're gonna calculate the unemployment rate. And the way I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna give you an example, numerical example. Let's suppose that we have a population equal to 200 million people. And we have people who are employed is 90 million people. And the number of people who are unemployed is 10 million people. What I want you to do is calculate the percentage of people who are unemployed. Because usually that's how we get the numbers. We get in percentage terms, not rather than 10 million or 11 million or 257,000, whatever. You know, so we need percentage. So let's calculate the percentage of people who are unemployed, given my example, given my numbers. Anybody shout out a percentage? Crickets. Come on, don't worry about it. Best guess.
11%.
11%. Well, it's close. I thought that you guys going to say another number. I thought that you would say
5%?
5%. 5%, but it's not 5%. How much is it? So it's not 11, it's not 5. I was thinking 5 because it's 10 million out of 200 million, and that's 5%. But you should not calculate unemployment that way, because what you're interested in is how many people are not finding jobs out of the group of people who are available to work. Well, who's available to work? The people who are employed and the people who are
Seeking for your job.
seeking a job, the people who are unemployed. So what we want to find out is how many people cannot find jobs out of the pool of people who are available to work, and that's the employed plus the unemployed. So the unemployment rate is calculated as the unemployed divided by the employed plus unemployed times 100. So in this case, it's going to be 10 divided by 90 plus 10 is equal to 10 divided by 100 times 100 equals 10%. So the unemployment rate is 10%. So how many people cannot find jobs out of the group of people who are available to work? But you see that we're missing 100 million people. Who are those 100 million people that we are not counting on? We are just throwing them out.
Those unavailable for work?
Yeah, but they're unavailable to work because they are
senior or they are kids.
They are kids, they are
with disabilities.
seniors, exactly. They may be wealthy and they don't need to work. They could be a whole bunch of people who do not belong over there. So we just gonna throw them out. So I wanna find out how many people are looking for work out of the people who are available to work. And that's who's available to work. This number here, the employed plus the unemployed, has a name. This is called the labor force. So the labor force represents everybody who's available to work. And a long time ago, there used to be the book had a very interesting graph about the labor force participation rate for males and females. And the labor force participation rate basically is looking at how many people are available to work out of the whole pool of males or females. So how many males are available to work, whether they are employed or unemployed, out of the whole population of males? How many females are employed or unemployed out of the whole population of females? And what was interesting was the fact that if you were to look at the labor force participation rate historically, for males, the participation rate was going down and down and down, and for females was going up and up and up. So more and more females are coming into the labor force, and more males are getting out of the labor force. In other words, they're no longer available to work, and more females are available to work. And there are interesting reasons behind this, and you could do an interesting paper on this topic. How come males is going down and females is going up? And a number of people have written pretty interesting papers on this. And obviously there's a lot of material available, so you can find a lot of articles on the labor force participation rate for males and females. Okay, now moving on, the government not only wants to calculate the unemployment rate, but they also want to categorize the type of unemployed that people are, so they put them in different categories. So types of unemployment. And one of them is self-evident. The name says it all. It's seasonal unemployment. What would be an example of seasonal unemployment?
Christmas time.
Exactly. Construction
farm.
workers in the winter time in the Midwest or stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. So people who are out of work because of the seasons. So that's seasonal unemployment. There's nothing anybody can do about seasonal unemployment. It will always be with us. Another one is frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment is people between jobs. So imagine, to give you an example of frictional unemployment, that I hate this job. And I'm looking for a better job. However, because I have to teach, I cannot give myself 100% looking for a better job. So what do? I quit this job in order to look for a better job. Well, guess what? I'm going to be unemployed. And as far as the government is concerned, I'm frictionally unemployed. I am between jobs. This is type of unemployment nobody can or should do anything about it. We should be able to quit our jobs and look for better jobs. So we will always have some frictional unemployment, people between jobs. This is the reason that we have seasonal unemployment and frictional unemployment. They will always be with us. That is why, folks, we will never have unemployment rate going to zero. You cannot talk about unemployment rate equals zero. Sometimes you will hear the term full employment. Full employment is where unemployment rate is very, very low, but it cannot be zero because we will always have seasonal and we will always have frictional. So something like maybe 3.5% is considered full employed, full employment. So that's because everybody who wants to have a job has a job. But there's going to be some people who are out of work because of the seasons or because they're looking for something else. So we will always have some type of unemployment. Okay. Another type of unemployment is structural. Structural unemployment is when people's skills are no longer needed. It could be that their skills are no longer needed because machines have taken over. Automation has certainly replaced some jobs. Let's say in auto manufacturing, robots are doing the jobs that used to be done by people, and their skills are no longer needed. Therefore, they're considered structurally unemployed. Or it could be that their skills are no longer needed because the demand for the product that they were manufacturing is no longer there. Suddenly, nobody wants to eat dairy products. Well, a whole bunch of people in the dairy industry will lose their jobs. That would be considered structural unemployed. Or it could be that your job has been outsourced. So be careful when you pick your career. Make sure that your job cannot be easily outsourced. Let me ask you this. What about my job? Do you think that my job could be outsourced?
Yes.
You better believe it. You bet. Instead of, tomorrow you come to class, and instead of me teaching this class, could be somebody from, I don't know where they pay a fraction of my salary, they pay them, and they can do exactly the same job. So it could be that maybe from Romania, somebody from Romania, and you're not going to miss the accent, So it could be, and many jobs can be outsourced. If you are in computer science, can somebody from India write code just as well as you can? And the answer is, of course they can. So a lot of jobs can be outsourced. Be careful. Last one, frictional unemployment. Oh, I'm sorry, frictional, structural. Sorry about that. Not structural. Cyclical. Cyclical unemployment is unemployment due to recessions. So whenever we go into a recession and people lose their jobs, that is due to a recession. Those are cyclically unemployed. The name cyclical comes from the business cycle. So the economy goes up and the economy goes down. Well, when the economy struggles and people lose their jobs, they are considered cyclically unemployed. Okay. So those are the 4 basic types of unemployment. And on a test, I may ask you a question such as, Joe, who's in construction in Chicago, lost the job in November. What would be considered, Joe, as unemployed as?
Seasonal.
Seasonal, absolutely. Or it could be that Joe lost the job because there's no longer demand for automobiles. Okay. Or let's put it this way. Self-driving cars are causing taxi drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers to lose their jobs. What would they be considered unemployed as?
Structural.
Exactly. Their skills are no longer needed. So we're basically done with unemployment. Okay, so keep it simple. You got to be 16 or older, out of work, actively seeking work. Unemployment rate, you take the unemployed divided by the labor force times 100. So let's talk a little bit about inflation. What is inflation in general? It's a general rise in prices. And how do we calculate this general rise in prices? Well, guess what, folks? The way to calculate inflation, the government creates a huge basket of goods. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a CPI, a consumer price index. So you need a price index, okay? And to do this price index, what you do is you create a huge basket of goods that will include everything from food, clothing, travel, fuel costs. Everything is going to be included in this basket of goods. Healthcare, everything that we spend money on is going to be included in this CPI. And what a price index does, it measures the prices over time. The prices of this basket are measured over time and then compare the prices from period to period. So you measured the cost of the basket this month, then the next month, and then you have 2 numbers and you see, are the numbers going up? If the numbers are going up, that means that prices went up. So we have inflation, and you can calculate the percentage change in prices. And you're gonna get how much was the inflation, how much prices went up. It doesn't mean that all prices are going up. Some are going up, some are going down, but overall, what is happening to the cost of this basket? So if for our purposes, we're gonna take a look to find out what's happening with inflation. We're gonna take a look at the CPI, Consumer Price Index. There are all kinds of price indexes depending on who's being targeted. In other words, for us, we care about prices that we pay, consumers pay. there's also another one example is something called PPI, a producer price index. But with the producer price index, you're not going to take a look at the price of apples or the price of shoes or the price of beef or the price of whatever. You're going to take a look at the price of steel. You're going to take the price of lumber, the price that producers pay. Okay. We don't care about that. We care about the final goods. So we care about the consumer price index. So what we're doing is we're taking a huge basket of goods that may contain over 30,000 goods in this basket. And like I said, everything is included: healthcare, travel, fuel costs, housing, everything, food, everything is included because it has to reflect our consumption. And obviously you realize that it has to reflect our consumption. So that means that, for example, food may be represented about 25% of this because our income goes 25% towards food. Maybe housing will represent something like 20%. Travel, maybe 5%. Healthcare, another 5%, and so on. So they have to be represented in their fair share. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to calculate a CPI. We're going to create our own basket of goods, and then we're going to calculate a CPI for that basket of goods. By the way, I just want to mention that it's a very, very tedious process of calculating the CPI. Many people are involved in this, consumers, producers. It's a tedious process. It's not simple. I'm going to make it very simple. I'm going to make a CPI for, let's say, our consumption consists of 3 goods: bread, milk, and gasoline. And let's say that the quantities that we're consuming for milk is 5 gallons of milk, 4 loaves of bread, and 8 gallons of gasoline. This is the consumption in 2020. And the prices of those goods in 2020 is a gallon of milk is $3, a loaf of bread is $4, and a gallon of gas is $4. Well, that means that the cost in 2020 of this basket of goods is going to be $15 plus $16 plus $32. So it's going to be 15 plus 16 plus 32. And altogether is going to be, let's see, 11, 13, and 1, 2, 3, 6. $63. So we're spending $63 this year on this basket of goods. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at, well, the same basket of goods, but in 2021. So here, the quantities in 2021, I'm going to leave them the same. The quantities I'm leaving the same because when I look at differences in the cost of the basket of 2020 and the cost of the basket in 2021, I want those differences to come only from differences in, anyone?
Price.
Prices, exactly. So differences in prices, not differences in quantities. Okay. So quantities will stay the same. Prices, I'm going to change. Let's say that milk goes up from $3 to $4. And bread stays the same. No, bread goes down. Let's move it down. It goes down to $3 a loaf of bread. And let's say that gas goes up, it goes to $5. Well, let's calculate the cost of the basket in 2021. Let's see, 5 times 4 is 20, so $20 on milk, $12 I'm spending on bread, and $40 I'm spending on gasoline. And altogether is gonna be 72. Well, now we can calculate a CPI. How am I gonna calculate that CPI? The CPI is gonna be the CPI for 2021. In other words, compares the prices of 2021 to the prices of 2020. We already know, we can see that we had inflation. The cost of the basket has gone up. And yeah, the price of milk is actually, that one went up. This one went down. The price of bread went down, but overall the cost of the basket went up. So to calculate the CPI, I'll do it here. CPI for 2021 is the cost of the basket in the most recent year, in 2021. So it's $72 divided by the cost of the basket in the previous year, the year that you're comparing to, divided by 63 times 100. And I don't have a calculator in front of me. Would anybody calculate what is 72 divided by 63?
1.142.
1.14, thank you. So here I'm gonna put 114 because I am also multiplying by 100. Okay, so the CPI for 2021 is 114. Folks, how much was the inflation between 2020 and 2021? Was it 114%?
Eleven. 11%.
No, it's not 11, it's simpler than that.
114.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry. It's actually no. 114. The CPI is 114.
14%.
14%, exactly. Yeah, 14%. Because guess what? If the CPI for 2021 is 114, and we compared it to the CPI to the year 2020, what do you think is the CPI of 2020, the base year, our reference year?
That one is the 100%.
Exactly, is 100, exactly, is 100. So the CPI for the base year is always gonna be as 100, okay? Folks, if the prices had gone down, let's say that we calculate the cost of the basket as 63 for 2020, and then the cost of the basket, let's say for 2021 was less than 63, was 60. What would the CPI be for 2021? Would be a number that would be?
Lower, 95%.
Yeah, it would be less than 100. And the CPI for the reference year, which is 2020, would be 100. Okay. So you see, those CPIs, they make sense when you compare numbers. When you compare numbers, that's what CPI do. Any indexes do. They compare numbers. What happens to a number from year to year to year? In the stock market, folks, we don't have, when we look at, well, what's happening to the stock market? Is it going up? Is it going down? You're not going to be able to tell me what happens to every stock. You know, it makes no sense to look at every stock. So what they've done is they calculated an index, And we are using that index, a basket of stocks that represent the stock market, if you will. Can anybody give me a stock index that tells us what is happening in the stock market, where we are following what is actually happening to the stock prices of just a number of companies?
S&P 500.
Nas,
Exactly, exactly. And how many stocks do you think the S&P 500 follows?
500.
Yeah, yeah. Another even weirder. So those 500 companies, they actually represent for us the stock market. It's the average, on average, what's happening in the stock market. It's going up, it's going down. Well, the S&P is going up. We say the stock market went up. Listen, but you know, your company S&P goes up, but your company stock is collapsing. You know, but on average, is going up. Okay. The Dow Jones. Any idea how many companies are included in the Dow Jones? This is actually mind-boggling. Because the Dow Jones is probably the most representative measurement of the stock market. Guess what? 30 companies. 30 companies. What is happening to the stock prices of 30 companies, that's representing the Dow Jones. Okay, so those 30 companies, the stock, they go up 2%. The basket goes up 2%. We say the market went up 2%. They go down 1%. The Dow Jones went down 1%. The market went down. You know, so obviously it's very, very interesting how those companies are picked, because they got to represent the whole market, you know, our economy, if you will. Okay, folks. Now, I just want to mention just one more thing. A few years back, the way that we measured the CPI has changed. Those numbers, the quantities, they no longer stay the same. They allow for some changes in the quantities. And there's a reason for that. Some people complained that the way we are calculating the CPI this way, it's actually overstating the inflation. In other words, when we calculate the CPI this way, we are making the inflation to be more than it actually is. And there's a reason for that. They have a good argument for that. And the argument is this: in real life, we do not maintain the same basket of goods time after time after time, because there's something called the substitution effect. And imagine this. Imagine in this basket of goods, we have the price of chicken and the price of beef. And let's suppose that the price of beef suddenly starts going up and up and up, while the price of chicken kind of stays the same. Well, what do you think that people will do?
Buy more chicken,
Buy more chicken, and they will buy less.
less beef.
Exactly. So in real life, we're not going to maintain the same basket of goods, and we're not going to see the same inflation rate because we are switching to more chicken and less beef. With this basket, we are maintaining exactly the same consumption for beef and chicken. And therefore, we're going to see more inflation than when we allow for substitution. Okay. But for the purposes of this class, this is the way we're going to calculate a CPI. So just calculate the cost of the basket in 1 year, in the previous year. You then do the ratio between the most recent divided by the previous times 100, and you come up with a CPI. Okay. Questions? Are you comfortable with this so far? At this point, basically, folks, so what I want you to do is read the chapter, go over this lecture again, do the quiz, and I guarantee you, you're going to be in good shape. At this point, let me stop the recording.